There are moments in a man's life that don't make it into the history books. Moments that happen in the dark, on empty streets, when nobody's watching and the only witness is your own conscience. This is one of those moments. A night in the early 1960s, somewhere outside Memphis or Shreveport. A night when Johnny Cash followed a woman out of a venue and came within inches of destroying everything he'd built. Picture it with me. A mid-sized music hall attached to a bar. Not a honky-tonk, not a grand theater, just a working-class venue where people come to hear music and forget about their week for a few hours. Wood-paneled walls, ashtrays on every table, the smell of cigarette smoke and spilled beer hanging in the air like a permanent fog. The show just ended. Johnny Cash and the Tennessee Two finished their set maybe 20 minutes ago. The crowd's still buzzing. Some folks are lingering near the stage, hoping for an autograph or a handshake. Others are drifting toward the exits, back to their cars, back to their lives. The band is packing up cables and loading equipment. The bartender is wiping down glasses and counting the register. It's the strange time after a performance, when the applause has faded and the energy has drained, and what's left is just exhaustion and emptiness. That hollow feeling that hits when the lights go down and the crowd goes home and you're alone with yourself again. Johnny Cash is in that feeling right now. Standing in the back hallway near the green room, not celebrating, not smiling, just standing there, staring at nothing, feeling the weight of another night on another stage in another town that looks just like the last one. He's not drunk. He's not high. Not yet, anyway. He's just hollow. The kind of hollow that comes when fame doesn't save you. When thousands of people cheer your name and you still feel completely alone. When the song works and the crowd loves it and the silence afterward feels unbearable. This is Johnny Cash in his darkest years. Married, but emotionally detached. Exhausted from the road. Lonely in a way that has nothing to do with being by yourself and everything to do with being lost inside your own skin. Fame brought him money and recognition and women who want pieces of him. But it didn't bring him peace. And on nights like this, peace feels impossible. Women linger near the stage area. Always do after a show. Hopeful, quiet, waiting. Some of them young and eager, dressed up like they're going somewhere special. Some of them older, more composed, just there for the music. Johnny's used to it, the attention, the eyes, the smiles. It's part of the job, part of the life. Most nights he signs a few autographs, shakes a few hands, and disappears into the tour bus before anyone gets too close. But tonight is different, because standing near the side exit, away from the crowd, away from the noise, is a woman who catches his eye in a way he doesn't expect. She's not rushing toward him, not waving or calling his name. She's just standing there. A red coat over a simple dress. Older than the groupies, maybe mid-30s. Composed, calm. She's not looking at him like he's Johnny Cash the star. She's looking at him like she sees something the rest of the room doesn't. Their eyes meet, just for a second, and then she looks away. Not shy, not flirtatious, just aware, like she knows exactly who he is and exactly what kind of trouble follows men like him, and she's choosing not to chase it. That restraint is what hooks him, because in a world where everyone wants something from Johnny Cash, here's a woman who seems content to walk away. And that difference, that quiet refusal to need him, feels like the most interesting thing that's happened all night. She turns toward the exit, steps outside into the cold night air, and Johnny watches her go. He should stay inside, should finish shaking hands, should get on the bus with the band and head to the next town. That's what he's supposed to do. That's the routine. That's the job. But he doesn't. Instead, he tells himself he's just going to get some air. Just step outside for a minute, clear his head, nothing more than that. And then he follows her. Not fast, not obvious, just enough to be noticed if someone were looking. But nobody's looking. The band's busy loading gear. The venue staff is cleaning up. The fans who are left are focused on each other, not on him. So Johnny slips out the side door into the night, and nobody sees him go. The street is quiet, empty. Neon signs buzz overhead, casting pink and blue light across wet pavement. It must have rained earlier. The air smells like asphalt and cold. A few cars are parked along the curb, but no people, no witnesses. Just Johnny and the woman in the red coat, half a block apart. She's walking slowly, not hurrying, not looking back. Just moving forward like she knows exactly where she's going. And Johnny follows, keeping his distance, telling himself he'll just say hello. Just ask her name. Just hear a voice that isn't cheering or asking for something. But he knows that's a lie. He knows what this is, what it could become. The road this walk is leading down, and every step he takes is a choice, a decision to keep going when he knows he should turn around. His boots echo on the pavement, footsteps in the silence. He can hear his own breathing, feel his heartbeat. The night is so quiet it feels like the world is holding its breath, waiting to see what he'll do next. The woman stops near a car parked under a streetlight, an older model. Nothing fancy. She reaches into her coat pocket, probably for her keys, and that's when she turns around. She sees him, standing there, 20 feet away, and she doesn't smile, doesn't look surprised, doesn't act like this is some romantic coincidence. She just looks at him, steady, calm, like she knew he'd follow, and she's been waiting to see if he'd actually do it. And then she says something that stops him cold. "You don't want this kind of trouble?" Her voice is quiet, not harsh, not judgmental, just honest, like she's stating a fact. The way you'd tell someone the road ahead is washed out and they should turn back while they still can. Johnny doesn't say anything. He just stands there, caught between moving forward and walking away. Between the man he is and the man he's trying not to become. She takes a step closer, not toward him, just enough to close the distance so they can talk without shouting across the empty street. "I know who you are," she says. "I know what happens to men like you. I've seen it before." There's no malice in her voice, no anger, just experience. The kind of knowing that comes from watching someone you cared about destroy themselves and being powerless to stop it. "I lost someone," she continues. Her voice is steady, but there's weight behind it. Someone with talent, someone who could have been something. He let the road eat him alive, let the loneliness and the bottles and the women turn him into someone I didn't recognize. By the time he realized what he'd lost, it was too late to get it back. She pauses, looks at Johnny like she's trying to decide if he's listening or if he's already too far gone to hear her. "I promised myself I'd never be part of that spiral again," she says. "No matter who it was, no matter how lonely I got, I wouldn't be the reason someone threw their life away." Johnny feels something crack inside him, not dramatically, not like a revelation in a movie, just a quiet shift. The kind that happens when someone holds up a mirror and you see yourself clearly for the first time in a long time. He's not thinking about this woman anymore. Not really. He's thinking about his wife back home, about the life he's supposed to be building, about the man he's supposed to be versus the man he's becoming on these long, lonely roads where nobody knows him and nobody stops him, and every night feels like an opportunity to disappear into someone else's arms and forget who he is for a few hours. This woman isn't tempting him. She's warning him. And that warning cuts deeper than any sermon or lecture or guilt trip ever could. Because she's not telling him what he should do. She's reminding him what he already knows. That this road leads nowhere good. That walking toward her means walking away from something he can't get back. That the most dangerous moments aren't the wild nights everyone sees. They're the quiet ones where nobody's watching and you have to choose who you're going to be when there are no consequences except the ones you carry inside yourself. Johnny exhales, long and slow, like he's been holding his breath for the last 5 minutes and just now remembered how to breathe. He looks past her, at the dark road stretching out beyond the streetlight, at the empty night that goes on forever. And he realizes something. He's been running from himself for so long, he forgot he could still stop. When he speaks, his voice is rough, tired, honest. I've been running from myself so long, I forgot I could still stop. The woman nods, like she understands, like she's heard that same confession before, maybe from the man she lost, maybe from herself. Then stop, she says simply, before you can't anymore. They stand there for a moment, two people on an empty street in a town neither of them will remember the name of. Two people who almost became a mistake. Two people who, for reasons neither of them will ever fully understand, chose differently. Johnny tips his head. A small gesture, respectful. The way men used to acknowledge women before the world got loud and forgot how to be gentle. He doesn't touch her, doesn't ask her name, doesn't say anything else. He just turns around and walks back toward the venue. The music hall is still lit up. The band's probably wondering where he went. The bus is waiting. The road continues. Tomorrow there'll be another town, another stage, another night of applause followed by silence. But tonight, for the first time in a long time, Johnny Cash didn't fall. He stood at the edge and chose to step back. The door closes behind him. The cold night air fades. And the hollow feeling that's been following him for months doesn't disappear, but it shifts. Just a little. Just enough to remind him that he's still capable of making choices. That the man he's becoming isn't set in stone. That every night is a test, and tonight, somehow, he passed. The woman in the red coat gets in her car and drives away. No dramatic goodbye. No lingering look. Just a woman who made a promise to herself and kept it. And a man who almost broke himself and didn't. Years later, Johnny Cash will talk about these years in interviews, about the darkness, about the loneliness of the road, about the temptations that come when you're famous and exhausted and nobody's watching, and he'll say something that sounds simple but carries weight. The most dangerous moments weren't the wild nights. They were the quiet ones, where nobody was watching and you had to decide who you were going to be. This was one of those nights. A woman in a red coat, an empty street, a choice that could have gone either way, and a man who, for reasons he might not have fully understood at the time, chose to walk away. That restraint doesn't make headlines. It doesn't become a song. It doesn't get celebrated or remembered. But it matters more than any performance he gave that night. Because it's the small choices, the private battles, the moments when nobody's watching that define who you really are. Johnny Cash followed a woman out of a venue in the early 1960s, and he came within inches of destroying everything. But he stopped. He turned around. He walked back. And that decision, quiet and unglamorous as it was, might have saved his life. Because the road he was on, the spiral he was caught in, it only ends one way if you don't stop. And on this night, on this empty street, Johnny Cash remembered how to stop. Not because he was strong, not because he was virtuous, but because a stranger in a red coat held up a mirror and reminded him what he was about to lose. And sometimes, that's all it takes. One person, one moment, one choice to turn around instead of walking forward. The venue lights fade behind him as he gets back on the bus. The band asks where he went. He tells them he needed air. And they believe him because they don't have any reason not to. But Johnny knows the truth. He knows how close he came. He knows what that walk almost cost him. And he knows that the only reason he's still standing is because someone cared enough to tell him the truth when he needed to hear it most. The night fades into memory. The tour continues. The hollow feeling doesn't disappear, but it shifts. And Johnny Cash, the man who almost fell, keeps moving forward, one choice at a time, one night at a time, trying to be the man he's supposed to be instead of the man the road is turning him into. That's the story, not the headlines, not the myth, just the truth, the quiet, unglamorous truth about a man who stood at the edge and chose not to jump. And that choice, made on an empty street with no witnesses except his own conscience, matters more than any song he ever sang.